welcome to the 66th episode of Impact Media Presents Devika Parikh. I am Kelly Redmond, your host and Executive Director of Impact Media and Entertainment Coalition, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Today is a very special day. You will have the pleasure of getting acquainted with one of my favorite people, Sister Soror Devika Parikh, a woman of faith, the woman of faith behind OWN's new favorite drama queen, Melanie Pierce of Kings of Napa. She's an actor, she's a comedian, she is a prayer warrior, and most importantly, she lives out her faith in everything she does. And she is truly tapping into her acting talents and skills to portray a role that's completely outside of her character. So I introduce you to Devika Parikh, who many of you know affectionately, or maybe not so affectionately, as Melanie Pierce of Kings of Napa. Welcome, Devika. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Kelly. And I have on my pink. It goes against our sorority colors.
Exactly. We wear every color. So Deltas look good in any color. And there's a little story behind the jacket. We might as well just start off and talk about that.
Oh, yeah. So Allison Marsh is my stylist, and she gets me fabulous clothes. So I just thank Allison Marsh, the stylist, for pulling this fabulous jacket for me because I love it. Can you see it?
Absolutely. It's beautiful. And now all the sorors who are watching will now understand exactly
right. They'll forgive me
today. But I'm representing for both of us in our crimson.
Right. I see that crimson, girl. You got the crimson.
Yes. So I just have to start off by saying, Devika, you have had quite a career, and I've had the opportunity and the pleasure of knowing you for since I've been in LA, and I am just so incredibly proud of you for achieving your dreams, but as well as achieving your dreams in your career field, but also your walk, who you are, as a person, who you are, in your family, as a friend, as a sister, and as a woman of God. And I'm very fortunate to have the opportunity to get to know you and for us to even have that spiritual connection, because we primarily bonded through our connection through church at Faithful Central.
Right.
And really grateful to you for how you've supported me in my walk, in my spiritual growth, personally and professionally. So thank you so much.
That's so sweet. Thank you, Kelly. So, back at you. I appreciate you.
And I've said to you privately, and I'm going to say publicly, I want you to come and be your full self today. We're going to have
I didn't want to scare people, but okay. Yes. Okay, you asked for it.
I'm giving you permission to be your whole funny, impactful self as we talk, and today, as you know, we're going to talk a little bit about your why, your journey, advice that you have to others, and kind of what's next, kind of as an overview. So let's just dig right in. I'm aware that you started your career as a journalist and then transitioned and decided that you wanted to pursue acting. Tell us a little bit about that and how you have transitioned and in the course of your career, because you've done some neat projects over the years. You've been around. You're a seasoned actor. You're not new.
That's another word for you're old, girl. You're old.
No, I'm not saying that at all. But somebody said, "Oh, wow," when they hear the story and hear where you've been, they're like, "Oh," they may connect the dots. So
yeah, it's it's a blessing to have been in the business this long and for God to continue to provide in a business that is really scary because you just don't know if you're going to make it. But yeah, I went to I'm from Gaithersburg, Maryland, grew up there in a family that everybody's educated, has master's degrees, except for me. And then I went to Syracuse University because I really wanted to pursue acting when I was a child. And I was actually, as a child, I wanted to do it. I said, I'm either going to be an actress, model, dancer, singer. The other three didn't work out. As I got older, the acting, love for acting or the desire to act never left me. I
Mhm.
thought that it would. I thought I'd outgrow it. And I didn't know any professional actors when I went to school, so I didn't really know if that was a real career. And
Mhm.
growing outside of Washington D.C., which is really focused on politics, business, professional, I just didn't know. I didn't know anybody who made a living as an actor. And as a matter of fact, it's funny. After I graduated from Syracuse with a degree in broadcast journalism, I was working at a PBS news station, great, an excellent, top-notch, news outfit, and I just was unhappy. But I started taking an acting class. This is after I graduated from Syracuse. I started taking an acting class at the Studio Center in Washington D.C. And I remember I wouldn't tell anybody at work that I was doing it because I thought people are going to think I'm flaky if I say I want to be an actor. You know,
Mhm.
when you're young, you tell yourselves these
Oh,
lies
yes.
and then you look back on your life and you go, why did I do that? I wasted so much time being afraid to admit what I
Yes.
wanted. But I used to sit, at my job working for this news organization. And I remember watching, everybody else would be watching CNN and I'd be watching Entertainment Tonight. And my heart was hurting because I
Yes.
was like, oh my gosh, I hate what I'm doing. It
Mm.
wasn't the job. It was just, I wasn't where I wanted to be.
Yes.
So, but I remember taking that acting class, and there was another guy at the news station who ended up at the same acting school, and he was taking an acting class too. And I went, "Oh my gosh, I don't." And his name was Paul. I remember going, "Oh my gosh, I don't want him to see me because
Mm.
he's going to think he's going to know this is what I want to do." Like the ridiculousness of that. Like he was there too. You know
Right.
what I mean? And he was higher on the ladder at the news station than I was. So I was like, I guess we all want to be actors. But anyway, so I was just so miserable, and then I decided to take a trip. I decided to go pray. I drove myself to the Blue Ridge Mountains and
Mm.
Skyline Drive. It's a place that my dad used to take us camping as kids. And I said, I just told God, I'm not leaving the side of this mountain until you tell me what to do with my life.
Wow.
And I was literally desperate. Like I was like, I was so determined not to leave until I knew what I was going to do because I was desperate. It sounds so crazy, but I was literally that depressed.
Wow.
When you sometimes look at your life and you go, I sometimes get to the point where I look at my life and I have options and I go, you can either stay where you are,
Mhm.
you can either, wait on God, or you can make a move without God, or you can kill yourself. And I'm not saying that's what
Right.
people should do. But when you're that desperate, you're like, these are my options. Which way are you going to go? And I said, I'm going to sit on this mountain until God tells me what I'm doing.
Wow.
In the Bible how it
You
said
were
Jacob
how old? You were how old? Twen
I think I was like 22. I had graduated from Syracuse the year before. I'd been working at this news station for a year, and I wasn't on air. I was a secretary. I was basically a production secretary. But I was just so miserable. I was like, this is not the
Mm.
life I see for myself. This isn't what I want. And the love of acting never left. The reason I went into broadcast journalism is because I thought, oh, you can get on TV and at least you'll be on TV as a reporter and then you can slide into acting. But as you know, acting, because your daughter Jada does it,
Yeah.
acting and journalism are two totally different
Oh,
things.
very, very different. And it's interesting, Davika, because I had the same path. I was interested in acting, but chose journalism and was interested in broadcast journalism because of that, the very same reason. But I never had the courage to actually pursue it for myself. And that's a whole
Yeah.
other-
Oh,
that's
wow. So you had the same experience. I don't
yes.
know if you got as depressed as I did, but I was just like, I just don't wanna all I wanted to do was just be an actress and act and. Yeah. And I remember having a teacher, I think my junior year of college or sophomore year, and she said, "You're really good on camera. You're so natural. People like you. You're natural." And she said, "But you're not a very good writer."
Mm,
And she was like, "And to be a journalist, you really need to write." And I just remember thinking, who cares? I just want to be
right.
on TV.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it didn't matter to me. I was like, I don't care about that. I'm
Yeah.
glad I'm good on camera. That's all I want to do.
Mhm. You were starting to quote a scripture that motivated you when you were on that mountain. I didn't mean to interrupt that.
Oh, no, you know what? I don't even know if I had a scripture. It literally that scripture about Jacob wrestling with God,
Mhm.
where in the Bible, I don't even remember exactly where it's in the Old Testament, But when Jacob goes and he's wrestling with God and he's asking the Lord for something and then God maims his hip, that's
Mhm,
literally what I felt like I was doing. I felt like when I look back on it, I was wrestling with God because I said, I'm not leaving
mhm.
until you tell me what to do with my life. And I'd never spent the night by myself and I was scared to do that, but I was determined that I was doing it until he told me what to do. That's how desperate I was to know which way to go in my life. It was
Yes.
that. I felt
I
like I
can
was dying inside.
mhm. I can totally relate. Before I
Okay.
moved to LA, I was in what I thought was a dream job, and it's been very interesting because I can be in these places, really making a difference, but the attack that comes from kind of being in those places that only God can orchestrate to let you know it's time to move.
Yeah.
And so I knew that
Yeah.
I wanted to make an impact around diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice in media and entertainment because I still had
Yeah.
not embraced that I might have create the creativity it takes to create my own content and or be on air myself, whether as a journalist or as an actor. But I knew that I needed to get to LA since I was 12 years old. But
Yeah.
I prayed to God in the midst of being in a really uh, toxic environment. For some reason, Alexa wants to talk back today.
She's like, "I'm praying for you, girl."
Yes. So being in that toxic environment, I prayed and I asked God, I said, okay, Lord. Well, I made a promise. I said, Lord, when this is over, I'll move to LA. And the next thing you know, things just expedited and the attacks became harder, stronger. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
it's time. And even though it had been a really tough journey, once I got here and made the point to stay, now going into 11 years, God is so faithful.
Right.
I mean, he has answered every prayer, everything he showed me before I got here of what would happen is happening, is continuing to blossom, and I'm on every front. And I'm like, oh my God. It's
Yeah.
just and I see it in your life too. And so we want to hear more, about that. So tell us about some of those past roles that you've had that we've seen you in. And I still look back at some of them. I'm like, oh, there's Serena. Oh, wow. Tell us about some
Um,
of that
wh
brought us to you to Kings of Napa, where we get to enjoy you currently.
being messy, messy Mel. I think I came out here and after I left the mountain, I had 5 game plans for my life, and I systematically went through them and crossed them out except for one, and the one was about coming to Los Angeles.
Mhm.
So when I came off of the mountain, I said, "I'm going to start moving forward, submitting my resume to places in Los Angeles. I'll go out there for a week because I had a week's vacation from my job that I could still take. And
Mhm.
my uncle lives out here. So about a month before my birthday, I said, I'm gonna start sending out resumes. And I had lined up a week of interviews for when I got out here. And I came out here, I stayed with my uncle, rented a car, went from studio to studio, interviewed. At that time, I was telling people I wanted to do production work because you
Mhm.
can't just show up and go, I want to be an actress. So I just said, I'll be a producer. I don't know. I just do production work. The last place I visited was NBC Studios. I didn't have an appointment. I dropped off my resume. I walked in the front door. I said, well, I'll just drop it off and I'm leaving the next day, which was a Saturday. And there just happened to be a man in the lobby named Al Harper. I'll never forget him. And I gave my resume to the secretary, and um, she just said, "So okay, I'll turn your stuff into the employment HR department." And this man said to me, "What do you think you're doing?" I said, "I'm dropping off my resume. I'm from out of town, and I'm looking for a job." He said, "Do you really think you'll get a job that way?" And I said, "I don't know, but I don't have a choice." And I was kind of nasty. He said, "Let me take you around and introduce you to some people." And Kelly, he took me around to all the different shows that were being produced at the time at NBC. It was the Phil Donahue show. It was Classic Concentration. It was Santa Barbara. I'm really dating myself. At the end of that, he took me to the Page program, introduced me to this man, Bill Connor, who was the second in command. and I ended up leaving the next day. He said, "I really like you. I want you to fill out an application, and we're going to interview you. And if a job offer comes up, we're gonna reach out to you." I said, "Okay." I left to go back to Maryland the next day after I filled out the application, took the typing test. 4 days after I got back to Maryland, went back to my news job, I got a call from NBC Studios in Burbank.
Mm.
We have a job for you. We want to know if you can be here in 2 weeks. And I went, "Are you kidding me?" Because I
Wow.
had already determined I'm going to move to LA with the $600 I have. And
Wow.
if I don't get a job, I'll just move out there at the beginning of the year. And that was like 2 months away. And I said, I'm going to move either way. I ended up getting a job.
Mm.
And then I gave my 2 weeks notice. And then I packed my little Toyota Celica, drove out here, lived with my aunt and uncle, and started working at NBC. And then started jumping into acting classes and trying to figure out headshots. And, you know, I
Wow.
didn't even have a headshot. A friend of mine said, "How are you gonna act and you don't have a headshot?" And I was like, "Well, I have to learn how to act first, right?" He's like, "Yeah, but you need a headshot." I was like, "Okay." So, I had the worst. I mean, I just didn't know what I was doing. It was a whole lot of misses and
Who
hit.
does? But I was gonna
Right.
say $600 is rich compared to most people when they come
Back
out here.
back then, back in the olden days. I may have had a little bit more, but I didn't have that much
Yeah,
money.
no,
That was
and
like
I'm teasing, to an extent, but, a lot of people come with nothing, and,
right.
we hear these stories, and it's like, wow, but no, it really is incredible.
Yeah, it was scary. It was scary.
Yeah,
And one thing I realized at the beginning of my career is you have to focus on the people who are doing what you want to do, and not the people who are naysayers.
right.
Because as a young actress, you start off and you might be doing background work, which I did because I figured, oh, this is a good learning experience. And if sometimes you get caught in a group of people who are like, oh, it's so hard. It's all about who you know. You need to be at the party socializing.
Mhm.
And then you really look at the actors that are really working and making a living at it, and their advice is get trained, get good at this,
Yes,
do the work, just do the work.
yes,
And so you really have to be careful about who you let speak into your life and who you focus on, what you focus on.
absolutely.
You have to be like this, you know.
How
That's what I learned.
you said that's what?
That's what I learned. And
Yes,
I wasn't a focused person. I wasn't a straight A student. I wasn't somebody who excelled a lot. And I'm not trying to put myself down. I'm saying that I think they call it ADD now, but I had to really like I still every day kind of have to pray about focus. I have to pray
mhm,
about focus. I have to pray about wisdom. I have to pray about discipline. These are things that I didn't really have a skill set for. And so when I got out here and I realized the amount of work that it was going to take to be an actress, that became one of those things I was like, Lord, I need help with
yeah,
this. I need help with just staying the course, being disciplined, being focused, doing the work. Like little things I had to pray about
but
and
those are
still
big
do.
things because so many people come with the dream, but if they don't have and practice, those elements that you just mentioned, focus, determination, all of that organization, it's those that don't have that typically go home and pack up pretty soon if they don't have that. Do you want to speak
Yeah.
to that a little bit more?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, to people that are pursuing anything, I think this goes with it. You have to set, for me, I had to set small goals.
Yes.
It seems small to everybody else, but were big to me. Like if you're gonna get a headshot, learn how to take good headshots.
Yes.
It's not let me just hurry up and find because a lot of times people are just rushing trying to get to stuff. Like,
Yes.
like to be honest with you right now, I'm trying to learn social media and I'm jumping into it like, oh gosh, and I'm frantic and frenzied and everybody around me is sick of me. And I'm like, Davika, just breathe. This
Yes.
is this is a long haul situation. You weren't doing a lot of that before. Learning the technology, is intimidating to me. And so I have to sort of sit myself down and go, if you just focus on it and breathe, you'll get there. But I think it's with anything you're doing, take
Mhm.
the time to learn what you're doing. Like I always say, a lot of actors are like, well, if I don't make it in 2 years, I'm going to go do something else. But this is the thing. Most actors want to, jump in here, make a lot of money doing movies, feature films. Sometimes those actors that are on series that are doing features are getting paid more
Yeah.
than doctors and lawyers. doctors and lawyers go to school for years, right? What makes you think they're going to pay you more and you haven't trained or put the time in like a doctor does? You know
Exactly.
what I'm saying? Doctors go to school for what, 12 years, whatever it is. So as an actor, you've got to kind of look at it. When I came out here, I had friends that were like, "Well, how long do you think you'll be out there?" And I was like, "Well, how long do you think you'll be doing what you're doing?" I didn't have an endpoint. I said, "I'll be here until I'm not. I don't know. There's no game plan B." I'm not saying don't have other options, but I'm saying
Yeah,
you've got to focus 100% on the thing you want. Otherwise, you're not going to get there.
exactly.
If you have all these different distractions, huh?
That commitment where anybody in this is like committed. You got to be committed, fully committed in
Fully
order to.
commit and to one thing. I mean, you look at people like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and, Tiger Woods and Venus Williams. They weren't doing 50 different things. They
Exactly.
were focused on one thing and they
Yes.
did it 100%.
Yeah.
And I think that that's, I'm not saying you can't have multiple things, but I think for me, I have to focus on one thing at a time and do it 100%. And it takes all of me.
Yes. Yes.
But that's
Tell,
me.
you know, some are gifted with the ability to multitask. I tend to be one of those people, but
Mothers are, you have to.
at the same time, though, you definitely yield different results when you focus. And
Yeah,
interesting, you talk about me as a mother. Jada reminds me all the time, she, like you, knew at an early age what she wanted to do. She set really high goals for herself
yeah,
at a young age. And she's like, I'm going to be one of the first to win an Oscar. That
right,
was, when we moved here when she was 10 years old. And, I've taught her to dream. And it's amazing all of the things that she's put out there,
right.
even right after she turned 10 years old. We were going to Malibu to the beach to celebrate her birthday. We passed by Pepperdine and I told her about the history of Pepperdine, some of the alums like Tia and Tamara and other, and she stood on that hill looking out at the ocean and said, I'm going to Pepperdine.
Right.
And I said, and I'll teach you what you need to do to get there. And she
And
did it.
now she's
She
there.
was
Yep.
focused.
Yep.
And she actually tells me now she appreciates that I did not push her into the industry early and allowed her to focus on getting the training and being a child and, getting grounded, fortifying her faith
Mm.
so that she's prepared. And it's hard to
Right.
believe she only has 1 year left of school. And then it's like,
I
you know,
can't believe it's 1 year, Kelly. I'm like, oh my gosh, that went fast.
right. It really, really did. And I appreciate your support of her, mentoring her, taking her with you, on the set for some of the other projects that, that you've done. And we're both so grateful. Uh,
Oh, you're
Teaching
welcome,
her
sister.
how to sustain herself in this industry when, she's not she's not a series regular. That just, it goes such a long way. And to be able to see people who have done it, really, really makes a difference.
That's awesome. So proud of her.
No, thank you. And we are proud of you. And I want you to share now, how your faith has sustained you out here and as you're pursuing your career and your other life goals.
It's like any relationship. Like I look at my relationship with God as a relationship with a human where it's some days you're good, some days you're bad.
Mhm,
Going through the pandemic was hard. I
mhm.
have to press into prioritizing God in the morning and
Yes,
really pressing into reading the word.
yes.
And setting, I have a syllabus that I follow and I use my NIV Bible life application because I like to read the breakdown. But
Mhm.
that discipline for me is what changes how I view things, how I think.
Yes.
And I'm still not always fully there. I just feel like it's an ongoing process. But um, because some days it's good and some days it's still hard. Some days I don't understand and it's not like, "Oh, I'm a Christian. I know, I got it. I got this." No, and some days I act really ugly. And I think God loves us in spite of ourselves,
Absolutely.
especially when we humble ourselves and know that we really need him. But
Yes.
I would not be here. I would not have a career if it wasn't for my relationship with God.
Yes.
I know that. And I know that when I got out here, now I'm getting emotional. I know that when I got out here, that actually was one of the things that brought when I got here was almost a bigger focus than
Mm.
my career in a
Yeah.
way. I
Yes.
came out here for the career and then God gave me certain lessons.
Mhm.
Um, and then I realized that my career is directly tied to his purpose for me.
Yes.
So I can't separate the two.
Right.
It just is who I am.
Right.
Now. It's who I've grown into be. And
Mhm.
it's a walk. It's a daily walk. And sometimes I don't always fulfill it properly. But that is a priority to me. And it defines who I am. It defines certain things that I will and won't do.
Mhm.
It defines what I choose to do when nobody's looking. It
Yes.
corrects me when when I'm wilding out and I have to really look at myself. There's jobs that
Girl,
I booked that
wilding
I
out.
passed on. Hmm?
I said wilding out. Yeah, right.
Wilding
You're
out. Right. It's so wild. But but they're early on in my career because I didn't know how to integrate the two, my faith and my being an actress. Because being an actress, they want you to put out certain things. And being a female leading lady, which is the category I realized I might be in, there were
Yes.
certain things that they want you to do, if it's nudity and I'm not knocking people that do that. I just had to really say to myself, is this something God wants me to do? And
Right.
then based on that, I made decisions about certain parts that I would do and that I wouldn't do. That
Mhm.
became a defining thing for me. And I didn't know if I would always have a career because of that. You don't
Mhm.
always know. And then that's when you go, well, Lord, I'm going to trust you whether I have the career or not, because at the end of the day, you're going to be here and the career may not.
Mhm.
'Cause when we all die, we're going somewhere.
Yeah.
Life
Yeah.
is short. The Bible tells us that. But this is a finite amount of time that you're here. You're gone in a whisk. So what are you going to prioritize while you're here? And I
Right.
had to make a decision as best I could, and I still struggle with it daily, that my priority is going to be God. I don't have to beat people over the head with it. It just is how I live my life. I've made a choice and you have to choose whatever career you're in.
Yes.
And you can't define yourself by the culture. You've got to define yourself by your belief. Really who you are, you know? That
A
got deep. That got real deep.
Well, that's what we
People are like this, "Good Lord, turn her off."
uplift, motivate. I mean, and that's why you're here. That
Yeah,
is why I'm very, very particular, and selective about who I bring on the platform. Because again, it has to align with our mission, which is around using media and entertainment for social change and building the kingdom of God.
right,
And so, I should have had you on sooner, but timing is, everything. And I
right.
definitely more to share in terms of the story because your story was powerful before Kings of Napa. It really, it really was and has been. And so tell us a little bit about, well, I'll say some. We've seen you on In Living Color. We've seen you on Martin. Some of The Office. So tell us about some of those and what led to Kings of Napa, and then we'll talk about Kings of Napa.
Well, I think it's just having been in the business for a while and the timing of what came out. It was so surprising, to be honest with you, because during the middle of a pandemic,
Right.
to still be auditioning. And Kelly, I do a little bit of everything. Like I was doing at some points, I was doing more commercials, at some points, more voice work. I still continue to do voice work when I can. And then on camera doing TV shows, doing, some film. But this audition came about last year at the beginning of the year when and now auditions are all, at home. We're doing self tapes. We're not going into offices now when COVID hit. So you're grateful just to be able to do it. But learning the technology of shooting auditions at home is a whole nother skill set. So I had this audition for Kings of Napa. And I just audition and then I kind of move on to the next thing. I don't, sit in an audition for too long and go, what happened? How did I do? Because I know sometimes it has nothing to do with you. Sometimes you have a good audition, sometimes you don't. You just don't know. And then when I got the call back, I was excited. I was like, oh, wow, I have a call back. It was all over Zoom. And I met with the casting director and Janine Sherman Berrois, who's the show creator, runner, Matthew Perry. I'm sorry, Matthew Cherry. Sorry, Matthew Cherry, who was directing the first 2 episodes. And I did the audition over a Zoom session with them. I did it a couple of times, and then they pinned me for it. And I was so shocked and so excited, and then found out that it was going to be shooting in Toronto. I was like, oh my gosh. So we were there for 4 months shooting, but yeah, she's a messy character. I mean, you find
Yeah.
out why Melanie is messy. You know, as the story unfolds, as good shows are written, they show you the backstory of why this character is who she is. But of course, in the beginning, I was like, why did I do that? I don't understand. Who is this woman? I don't get it. But then, you know, it's written in there, and I obviously talked to Janine about the character, and I said, so why did she and what happened? And she gave me all the back, which really helped. So, you
Yes.
know, and I see this woman they came from sort of a dysfunctional situation with their mom, where their mom taught them to not tell the truth all the time, to hide things.
Yes.
And so I grew up, my
That-
character.
How common is that in our families?
Exactly. So you look at this sort of, you know, great family system that is dysfunctional and broken, and we pass these things on generationally to
Mhm.
our children. We teach them how to behave. And it is very, you know, the whole dealing with like mental illness and the instability there, with the mental imbalance in the household, that causes a level of trauma as you grow up. It informs who you are as a person. So I think this show does a multitude of things. It shows Black excellence in a way where you see a Black family that's wealthy, but you know, and their wealth is on display, but it does, you know, but they don't, you know, they don't have to push it out there. It just is who they are. They're educated. They have great style. They drink wine, which I love, red wine. Um, and then but then you also see that their dysfunction, their trauma, sort of starts to tear the family apart.
Yes.
So as close as they are, it also is, you know, just like in episode 106, when we're talking about why didn't you tell us that the mother was in a mental institution. We didn't talk about that growing up. It was a shame thing. You
Yes.
know, there was mental illness in my family. That's how I know too, because it was like you know, that person's crazy. That person's mother is crazy. They're, you know, they're in the insane asylum. There wasn't as much help back then. Now we have different places that people can get help. Like New Life Live is one of my favorite counsel. It's a Christian counseling ministry on
Mm.
the radio. I love what they do. NAMI, the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill, has all these resources to support mental illness, you know, people with mental illness and families that have people dealing with mental illness. But I think that story is so important. And no matter how good you look on the outside, how much money you can still be broken inside, or still have fractures, and, you know, need to pull it together, obviously.
Yes. No. The, what I love also, like you said, is the multitude of subtopics that, are addressed. I mean, dwarfism.
Yeah.
I mean, dealing with so many types of, differences.
And you know, I don't know if you know this, that character wasn't written for a little person. Janine saw Rance in a short film. He plays Dana King on the show, for anybody who doesn't know. Rance Nix. He's just so awesome,
He
because
is,
he doesn't define himself by being a little person, but he is all of who he is, and he's really amazing. Like, he's really inspiring, and
yes,
in that way. But she saw him in a short film and said, I'm going to change his character because I want him in the show. And she made the role for him, pretty
yeah,
much. She redefined the role for him, which I think is so awesome. To Janine, yay Janine,
absolutely.
to just, you know, to incorporate that and give a platform for that. And, you know,
Yes,
it doesn't define him. It just is part of who he is. You know,
exactly.
like when people say, how does it feel being Black in America? You're like, I've never been another color. I've always been the color I am. So I guess it feels how it feels. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have anything. I've never been white. I don't have anything to compare this to.
See what I mean? I told you she had jokes.
But you know, it's like,
Making a really good point. No, absolutely. But there's so many, aspects, of the show. You warned me that there were going to, that you had some things that were going to be happening that were exciting around your character. I wasn't prepared for what they were.
Girl, for the fallout and the drama. Ooh, girl,
Girl,
the drama's all time high.
and I have seen seizures and things like, I was like, oh, Devika. I was like feeling it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I
Girl,
felt
that stuff coming out my mouth. I was like, ooh, that's not a good look. That's not a good look. I
but
tried to look as good as I could
you
seizuring. But that yeah, but it's fun. The show moves so quickly. You
it
know what I
does.
mean? Like it doesn't sit in the drama. That's the thing that I realized when I first saw the show. Because when I first started doing interviews, I hadn't seen it. I was like, I don't know what they saw. And so when I saw it, I was like, oh, you know what's fun about it? The music makes it fun. The
Mhm.
way they put it together, and then the color, the looks, the clothes make it really
Oh,
fun. So it doesn't sit in the drama. Do you know what I mean?
yes.
It's drama filled, like a
Yeah.
soap opera, but then it has these upbeat, like, the walk on by music at the end of an episode. I was like, I gotta ask Janine, what was that choice about?
Yeah.
It just sort of goes, it's on a like it leaves on a dramatic note, but then it has some interesting upbeat music with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Did you find that too? Like it's kind of like, oh, it's fun. It's like,
Right. Absolutely. So, can you share any? We're like waiting, we're praying, for Melanie because we want to see Melanie, be reconnected and completely brought. We were just starting to see the reconnection, the reunion, the reconciliation
Right.
amongst sisters and nieces and cousins, and then all of a sudden this dramatic turn to being in intensive care and on life support. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. Wait a
So
minute.
wait, you wanna know what's gonna happen next? So we have one more episode. We shot 8 while we were in Toronto, so
There's
there's
only
only
one
8. There's one more episode. Make sure you tune in next Tuesday night, Tuesday, March 1st, 8 o'clock PM, East Coast and West Coast time. Central time, I think it's 7. It's on OWN, but it's also on Hulu Live. It's also on YouTube TV. You can also catch it on demand.
more. Yeah.
They re-aired this last night's episode. They'll air it again before next week's episode. But next week is the final episode. So we need everybody to tune in,
Oh, yes.
always tweet hashtag Kings of Napa, so that we can get on the live tweet feed with you. And then we'll see what concludes and what Melanie does. Does Melanie come back to life? She's
Hmm.
in a coma. What
Yeah.
happens? Huh?
I said she better. If not, we're gonna start a campaign to
Start
bring
a campaign, girl.
you
Start a campaign.
back.
Raise her.
Raise her. Yes.
Yeah, so we'll see. There's a lot to, who's the extortionist? There's a lot to sort
Oh
out.
my gosh.
What's going to happen
Oh
with
my,
August and Kelvin? What happens with my daughter, Bridget? Is she the
yes.
extortionist? Because my daughter had some secrets.
She has
Mhm.
some secrets. And when
I
I
got
saw her with all that money inside of the picture frame, I was like, hmm.
me too. I'm
But
like, excuse
ooh,
me.
that's too simple. That's too easy to go there. So I'm like, I don't think so. And I've always believed in Bridget. I'm like, I love the two of you and how you work together and try
Oh my
to.
gosh, she's an awesome actress.
Oh my,
Yanni Mondashine King. She's fabulous and she's so vulnerable and so strong at the same
yes,
time. Beautiful actress. Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. So yeah, we are eager. Gosh, that season went by really quickly.
Well, it's only 8 episodes and we didn't take a break. Sometimes they, will take like a 2-week break and then bring it back. So at the end of the 8 weeks, we'll see what happens with the show. We're praying we get picked up for the next season. Hopefully we will, believing we will.
Yes, yes,
So,
we're
you
believing
know,
you.
but we need everybody, if you like the show and want to see more, to tweet hashtag Kings of Napa. Want to see this show. Want to see this show. You cannot tweet enough.
Okay,
Tweet, Instagram, whatever you want to do.
okay. Facebook still count, or they count?
Facebook counts for, certain people. But I think more people are, Twitter's a little bit faster.
Yeah,
Instagram's kind of the go-to. So
yeah.
we have an Instagram account at Kings of Napa, but always hashtag Kings of Napa. Retweet, repost, whatever you can do to just spread the word if you want to see the show come back, like all of us do, you know.
Absolutely.
So that's helpful. But yeah, but she's been so much fun. Melanie's been so much fun to play because I've never played I've never been on a 1 hour Black drama.
Mhm.
And then to be in a Black family like this that has the excellence of art and, education and wealth and clothes and style and culture is really amazing, And then my character just had so much drama that I was like, huh?
Mhm.
But I really did was
Has
like,
to be
you can
fun.
identify with this, huh?
I said it has to be fun.
It is. It is. I have to press into the fun and go, okay, make her fun. Don't take yourself so seriously.
Yeah,
You're serious, but have fun with this.
yeah,
Yeah.
neat. So you were saying, as it relates to Melanie, there was something else you were starting to go into, as I was saying, have fun, but
Oh,
it's okay.
I
Uh,
don't remember. I'm
so
sh-
what
I'm sure it
advice?
was really important.
Yeah, yeah. What advice do you have to aspiring actors who,
um, you want
at
to get
various stages, have the idea like you, like, I think I have a gift. I want to do this, but the outside voices are saying, that's not really practical. That's not, really feasible. How are you, going to pursue this? To those who are already here, who've been out here in LA, Atlanta, other places, struggling, trying to make it, giving it the focus, the commitment, but they haven't seen the fruit yet. So from that broad spectrum, what can you say?
Well, first of all, I would say definitely set goals. Have a game plan. How are you going to do what you're going to do? And the second thing is, and surround yourself with people who are doing it, or at least have people you can reach out to who've already been in the business and are working that you can get advice from. Most actors that are working are more than willing to share advice. If you ask specific questions, like don't just say, "Well, I want to be an actor. What should I do?" But be very specific. What kind of classes would you recommend? How did you learn to do this? I do want to say this before I forget. Online on YouTube, SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, has these fabulous videos. They do videos for actors in the business. It's called SAG Foundation. You can go online and watch any of those YouTube videos about how to become an actor. Just little things like how to get headshots, how to build a website, how to use social media, how to literally watch those videos. They're so awesome. It's like free information. Um, but that would be one resource that I would say. Educate yourself, focus on your goals. What do you want to do? What do you, and then set small goals. I'm going to stay in an acting class for a year and a half. Find a good teacher. Take your time and find the right class for yourself. Don't try to just jump into acting and not have a steady gig.
Mhm.
Be realistic about where you are. If you can, try to get out of debt. I always tell actors, get out of debt.
Yes.
Make your money however you need to make it, and
Mhm.
then study the craft of acting. And don't give yourself a 1 year timeline. That's not realistic. Say, I'm in it for the long haul until I'm not.
Mhm.
And then identify the fact that we all have fear. Fear was like my biggest block for me. It still is with most things. Fear is a big paralyzer. So you have to identify when you're afraid and be okay saying, I am scared.
Mhm.
Most people are scared to pursue an acting career because I think most, right? Are most people scared to pursue an acting career? I mean, I was terrified. I was like, I don't know anybody. I don't know if it's possible. I hear all these people saying that, not many actors are working, but you have to say that is a fear thing. I'm going to focus on what I told myself is I'm going to focus on the 1% of actors that are working.
Mhm.
I'm not trying to be the 99% that aren't, because
Ex
whatever they are doing didn't work,
Right.
or it hasn't worked yet. I'm not saying didn't work. So let me focus on those who are doing it and then pattern myself after them. And a big inspiration to me was Will Smith. I met him
Mm.
when I was in college, and when he came out here and started doing the Fresh Prince, I
Oh,
used to say to myself, because I, knew him, I said, how does he do what he does? And I realized he's working on his craft every day because he's on a sitcom. He's
yes.
on set every day working on his craft. And then Friday nights, that's when his show would tape. That's when they would do the show. I was like, Davika, that's what you have to do.
Absolutely.
Based on that, I told myself, you're going to be on stage every week for the next year. And that's what I did. You set those goals so that you learn to master whatever it is you're mastering. I did improv I committed to doing improv for 9 months every Friday night. And
Mm.
I was horrible at it. But at the end of it, I became known as an actress who could do comedy, who was quick on my feet. And then the next couple of years, I was doing sketch comedy and improv. So I always thought of myself as a comedic actress. And then that opened up commercials because commercial casting directors look for actors that can think on their feet. And that opened up looping, which is voiceover work for me. You just never know where one little thing will take you. But if you stay the course and do the work, set small goals, ask questions of people who are doing what you want to do, educate yourself, come up with a plan, keep keep your money coming in however you need to do it.
Yes.
You don't have to be out here and be broke. There
Right.
will be times you're struggling. I'm not saying I didn't struggle or whatever, but I always had a job until I had paid off all my debt, paid off my student loan debt, paid off my credit card debt, and
Mhm.
had a certain amount of money saved up and had commercials running. That's when I stopped doing another job. That's
Mm.
that's when I stopped. I said, "I'm gonna not be," but I'm part Indian. So we're like, "Can keep the money coming in." It
Exactly.
but it's gotta make sense. That's not everybody's story, that's my story. I told myself early on, "I'm changing this narrative. I don't wanna be a struggling actor. I don't wanna be a starving artist. I either wanna be a working actress or I wanna work at something else." You know what I mean? It's either or, but I don't wanna be struggling and starving to be an artist.
Right.
Some people do that. I just wasn't wired for it. I was like, "I don't want to. I'd rather work." So
Absolutely.
my focus was, how do I work in this business?
And you've done it. You've done it well. You've
I've
done
started patterning in and pray. You've gotta pray. Pray about all of it. Pray about your fear. Pray about, what am I gonna wear? Pray about all of it. Pray about your discipline. Pray about your wisdom, focus, whatever it is you need, ask the Lord for it because
yeah.
he'll give it to you. You may not see it right away, but
Mhm.
you know,
How important is a mentor in this business?
extremely,
Talk about
extremely.
that a little bit, and if you feel comfortable, share who what mentors in your life have been helpful and inspirational, whether you had a personal relationship or you learned from them from a distance.
I still do now. Well, like I said, Will Smith was somebody who influenced me just because I knew him and watching the
You were
level
on
of,
an episode,
huh?
and you were on an episode of The
And
Fresh Prince.
what's funny is I booked that, and then when I was on set, he went, "Oh my gosh, Devika." I don't think he knew I auditioned. So
Mm.
I literally showed up. But I would say he was somebody who influenced me from afar. It wasn't like I talked to him all the time and said, "Hey, how do you do?"
Mhm.
There was an actor named Michael Whaley. Hi, Michael Whaley. He was a big impact. Met him when I was doing extra work on a movie, and he and his wife kind of took me under their belt. And he had gone to theater school and was a working actor. And I would call him every now and then, just ask for advice. Mike Beach was
Mhm.
very helpful to me, or when I did a play with him, and he opened himself up to allow me to just reach out and say, "How do I do this?" And he was really good about the work of acting, even more so than the business of acting. He was really good about coaching me or helping me just fine tune certain things with my acting, which is always an ongoing process.
Mhm.
He was like that. I'm trying to think. Wendy Davis, I just reached out to her when I got this show and said, because she was on Army Wives. Hi, Wendy. And I was like, "How do you do this?" Terry Vaughn is
Mhm.
a good friend of mine. I'll reach out to her and ask her advice. So a lot of my girlfriends that are in the business, I'll still reach out to and say, "How do I do certain things?" Carl Gilliard has been such a blessing. Whenever I need help with anything social media, technical, trying to figure something out, or just need advice like from a big brother, he's been highly,
Oh, amazing.
highly yeah, he's been
So excited.
really helpful.
He's like my next call. Like, I've got to get him on here too. He's been
Oh,
doing
yeah, 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 he's great. Yep, yep.
yeah.
Yeah, Evan Park. Evan Park is somebody else who's a good friend of mine, and, I'll ask him advice about things. So I have a community of people I feel like I can reach out to, but it is really important, you know? And when you have a mentor, be really specific about what your questions are, because that allows, usually if that person is something out to, there are other people reaching out, and the person doesn't have a lot of time. So the more clear you are on what you want from them or the questions you're asking, it's going to allow them to help you and zone in on what your need is. What do you want to know? That's what I tell people. Like if people say, could you mentor me or could you give me advice? Or I would say, give me 5 questions, email them to me so I
Mhm.
know what you need. Tell me a little bit about yourself, where you are in your process. And then I'll answer those questions. And then of course it's going to lead to other stuff. Yeah, but
Definitely.
I like to be able to share. If I can share and help somebody, I try to as much as I can.
It shows. And
Oh,
Jada and I have been direct beneficiaries of your wisdom and your faith and your guidance and leadership. We're very, very grateful. So thank you.
oh, thank you, Kelly. And yay, Jada.
I know it's hard to believe. I'm still like, wait a minute. And so what do you see for yourself in your future? Like what are some, you've achieved some goals, some pretty significant ones. I'm sure there are others. Are you willing to share, put it out there?
I would just love for season 2 to come back, Kings of Napa, and for us to be able to play even more as a family. Because now that we got the first season under our belt, we're like, okay, we can really settle in and just press into the fun of
Yes.
who this family is and all the different changes. So I think that's one major thing. And
Yes.
then also just any other, keep up my voiceover work. I love inspirational stuff. I would
Yes.
love to do like something like an inspiring animated feature film or something that has a message. I love message oriented things, things that are hope driven, because we are in difficult times. Coming out
Yes.
of this pandemic has been hard. It's a very divisive, sort of critical time in our country. And we went through a major trauma.
Oh, major. Major.
Our country's been really fractured. Even the church was fractured. I
Oh,
mean, that was really devastating to me to see that split in
yes.
in the faith community. You're like, who have we been? Who are we? Wait, wait a minute, wait. We should all agree on truth.
Yes.
I just, so for me, I think it's stuff that inspires hope, because there is a lot of stuff that can bring you down, and then and certain things you hear and just the dynamics of things. So I think things that either cause you to laugh, things that cause you to be inspired, to remind you of who God is, even if it doesn't land on God, but just there is more. I sometimes still have to remind myself that.
Yes.
um yeah, be anxious for nothing, but in all things through prayer and supplication make your requests known to God. And I have to remind myself, oh yeah, you got a force behind you. Girl, you got God. You got God.
Yes. And a faith community. Shout out
And a
to our
faith, yeah.
Bible study uh,
Woohoo!
partners who are tuning in.
Oh, they are?
And we got a comment early on from Theron Jones, a dear friend out of Atlanta. He was like, meaningful conversation. And that was at the very beginning. So
Wait, who was that?
his name is Theron Jones.
Oh, Theron. Yay. Hi, Theron.
But so many others who are tuning in, and some during the middle of their work day but are coming back later. I'm just so glad you were able to spend this time, and thank you for being so generous with your time today too, Devika.
Thank you for having me, Kelly. Sorry if I was long-winded.
No, 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 absolutely perfect. It's what I wanted. It's what I envisioned. I mean, it's just absolutely, absolutely perfect. And I know we initially discussed potentially bringing on some other cast member. Once you close the show next week, I would love to bring some of your cast members along and allow the community to celebrate you for what you've done in this first season, and engage and interact with you and get that campaign going to bring you back.
The campaign starts now. And
Yes.
anybody who wants to know, my name at Devika Parikh across the board. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and it's Devika. I kept it real simple at Devika Parikh on everything, so I'm easy to find.
Absolutely. Any closing comments?
That's it. Just, whatever your, life, I'll just say this. Life is hard.
Mm,
There's ups and downs. There always will be. Nobody's life is perfect. Everybody has struggles, no matter where you think you are in your career.
yeah.
God is real. He really is. He's really rooting for you. He has a plan and a purpose for you. Don't give up on yourself, because God hasn't. He sees you where he wants to take you. He loves you. He loves you. He loves you. And
Yes.
it's never too late to have a relationship with the Lord.
Amen.
no matter what you're doing. And you don't have to be perfect because none of us are.
Amen. This is a reminder, like we've got to start our prayer calls back, and that amazing prayer summit that you hosted a few years
Oh,
ago.
yeah, the glory prayer, yeah. We
Yes.
just can't do those prayer calls at 6 a.m. in the morning, girl, because there were people snoring on that call. I was like, "Lanier, is that you? Who's snoring? Who's snoring on the prayer call? Really, you just gonna fall asleep on Jesus? You just gonna just zap." Do you remember that?
I do.
I was like, "Who's snoring?" I was like, "Oh, this is a hot mess." You just gonna snore on Jesus. Just snoring, girl.
But
Mm.
he showed up, he's getting it, whoever it was. I'm not gonna say it was Lanier. I'm not gonna sell my boy
I know
out.
I just threw them under the bus. I don't know either. It might have been Kevin. I'm kidding. I just threw their names out there. Hooty hoo. Hooty hoo.
I see Ellie is tuning in and paying in the midst of her.
Oh, hi, Ellie. You
Yes,
weren't the one snoring because it was a guy.
it was a guy.
It was not a feminine snore. It was a
Yes, yes. But so we will read. This is not goodbye. This is not the end. We're going to continue to engage. We are going to get that campaign. So that's why this is called the Positive Impact Campaign.
woohoo.
This is our purpose. And thank you for allowing us to execute it so meaningfully, so well today, Devika. I truly, sincerely mean that from the bottom of my heart. I'm
Thank
just
you, Kelly.
so glad to see how God has been working in you, through you, using you. No matter what phase your life has been in, you've truly been a light. And I thank you for who you are, genuinely.
Oh, thank you, Kelly. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us today on the 66th episode of Impact Media Presents Devika Parikh. Stay tuned, more to come, more inspiration, more positive impact in the field of media and entertainment. And as we use the kingdom of God to advance more purposeful living for Him, using these platforms and mediums to do so. So continue to stay with us, join us, and help us celebrate those who God is using and who are allowing God to use them in this space, in these places. So look forward to seeing you real soon. Take care and God bless.